That's what you're talking about. We're not talking about the stress from the workplace or burning out from workplace stress. We're talking about these stresses which are external.
Yeah.
Are there kids in the crash? Have they got medical care? Are they the crime in the rural areas?
Yeah.
That's then having the massive knock-on effect internally, and the companies are saying, "Well, we're going to have to do it ourselves because the government isn't." Welcome, and Riaan Carstens, thank you so much for your time to climb in and talk a little bit about the dynamics of people in companies and specifically employee well-being and just the safety of culture and people within companies and how companies can actually make their people function better.
Obviously, being more in agriculture, I think my perspective would be more relevant for the rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that would be relevant in terms of maybe government services not being quite up to standard to what you would typically find in bigger cities. So if I so typically there's the physical factors other than geographical, which would be crime. Obviously, the police are spread quite thin there. So
Mm.
you're kind of left to your own devices, or private company farmers have to typically employ security companies, but you typically have long distances, and things like medical services take a long time to get to you. So oftentimes that sort of thing causes you to kind of have left to your own devices.
Right.
That's kind of mirrored in a lot of I would say community structures also. Although there's a lot of good work being done by many larger farming concerns, they typically have to stand in and for things like clinics, healthcare in general, creches, schools, you name it,
Mm.
infrastructure like roads, transport, that sort of thing. So, in terms of that, that's the physical setting within which especially farm workers have to operate. And I think from a psychological safety point of view, they also don't have, oftentimes they don't have their families with them, especially if they're seasonal laborers. Puts a lot of pressure on them and they don't really have their support structure with them. So they would typically enter into different social structures based on their employment.
That's what you're talking about. We're not talking about the stress from the workplace or burning out from workplace stress. We're talking about these stresses which are external.
Yeah.
Are there kids in the crash? Have they got medical care? Are they the crime in the rural areas?
Yeah.
That's then having the massive knock-on effect internally, and the companies are saying, "Well, we're going to have to do it ourselves because the government isn't."
But looking at a point of well-being, I think it's a matter of awareness, education, cultures coming together, people having to learn what's important to people.
Mm.
And I do think that being removed from your family, especially where you have both parents working and the children having to stay with grandma or grandpa, and it's quite a long distance away, so it's not even like they see them on weekends. So for
Mm.
parents to play any sort of a role in their children's lives becomes near impossible. So I think to me that's one of the toughest ones to figure out what to do because I'm not sure how to fix it.
Well, that's the
Um,
question, isn't it? It's understanding
yeah,
what the problem is to say, right, well, where are there companies who are actually getting it right? And are there companies?
I think mostly companies are taking mitigating steps for that. So typically, a lot of what I see, a lot of from the larger farming companies are establishing schools programs, accommodation on the farm, or they start supporting development elsewhere in
Mm.
terms of housing, because housing is, I would say, the number one challenge to address. If you're in a rural area, typically on a farm, you kind of have to provide transport, housing, healthcare,
Mm.
and all of these other services on top of your minimum wage,
Right.
which puts a lot of pressure on those employers. And I've seen some employers going even further, building sports fields, world-class facilities for their employees, and making facilities available for various functions, everything from weddings to whatever social functions, which is not something they're required to do, but it makes sense if you're looking at sustainability from a human perspective. So, but what I do find is that the people, the hearts are right. they want to help. It's just not always financially viable or possible for them. What I see with farming, there's a very acute awareness of the fact that you need to do it sustainably. You have to look after the land, you have to look after your people, you have to look after your crops, not just for this year or the next 5 or 10 years. Typically, farming companies have to plan for generations ahead. In my experience, I have found farmers to be involved just about in everything, from disaster management
Yes.
to building roads to shoring up security, supporting police structures, water, food supply, churches, social services, clinics, everything.
So,
And they finance it from their pockets, but not just money, also a lot of resources and time. And to me, that's good.
There's
That's what we
something
want to see.
there's something very strong here in business as a whole, learning from what the farming organizations are actually doing for the communities.
I'd love to wave a magic wand and fix our education system in our country.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, but I don't want to open another can of worms, but I'd
Yeah.
love to see that South Africa and the rest of Africa build world-class education, because the fact is the African population, the demographics in terms of at the base, in terms of what we expect in terms of population growth going forward, which is a great thing, is that we are going to have a lot of kids in our school system, and we need to prepare them to become economically active, to be able to get jobs, to become entrepreneurs and grow our economies, not just in South Africa, but also the rest of Africa. And I believe that Africa is positioned really to take the lead in the next 40, 50, 60 years in the world, because we've got all the resources, we've got agriculture, we've got natural diversity, we certainly have the people, we've got the creativity.
Love it. Beautiful words. Thank you so much for your time, Riaan. We're going to end on that note with your words of wisdom there on maybe you're going to politics at some point as well.
Please not.
Please not.
So
all right. Thank you so much for your time.